And Rob Luna and Shana Sissel. And let's start with these dueling headlines, right? You got the Fed on one side, you got Russia on the other. Rob, do we have no choice right now other than sitting back, taking these body blows and waiting for these issues to be resolved?
Well, I mean, you always got a choice in America. That's the great thing, Charles. But I think right now, if you're a long-term investor and you want to step into some of these names that are getting beaten up, you're just going to have to be ready for some punishment. Because like Brian was saying, there's a lot of headlines out there. The macro's moving everything. But look, we both know, Charles, the time to be a long-term investor is when everybody's panicking, things are on sale. Like you said, the market doesn't look great, but some of these individual names are getting absolutely demolished. So I think you've got to start being opportunistic right here.
Shana?
Oh, I completely agree with Rob. As a long-term investor, I am licking my chops when I see the market down like this. And now I get to buy the names I really, really like on sale. And every really strong, high conviction idea that I've been able to buy at a discount throughout my career has been a home run. And Warren Buffett always said, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. And now is exactly the time that you want to be greedy, when everybody is selling and the headlines, which are not basing and not driving fundamentals of the company, are what are driving human behavior. That is exactly when you want to be a buyer.
You know, Shana, I mean, obviously this is a serious sell-off. I often find after the fact that something else was going on, not the obvious. In other words, we know the obvious. Could there be something else, though? Could the market be signaling some other concern that we just don't talk about?
I mean, it could. Back in the financial crisis, I was fortunate or unfortunate, depending on how you look at it, to be working at a hedge fund who got gated from an asset-based lender long before anybody else had any clue that liquidity was the issue. And then you had that August incident that occurred where you had those margin calls and all those large cap value names sold off because firms were selling their most liquid names because they had no liquidity and the other things that they were holding on margin. So there's always the chance that there's something underlying. But overwhelmingly, the case is that regardless of those underlying plumbing of the market, when you see a sell-off like this, good companies, quality companies that are growing and earning, that are on the right side of trends, future trends, are on sale. And you know, if you went and bought Apple in 2008, you made a ton of money. And I think that now is a case in point where you want to be a buyer.
So, Rob, is that the case that you start to nibble here? And when do we know the coast is clear? When do we say, OK, it's one thing to start nibbling, you know, sifting through the ashes right now, but when would you become even more aggressive?
Yeah, I mean, look, Charles, as you know, no one rings a bell when we hit a bottom. It doesn't happen. I think when you hit the bottom is the point of, you know, capitulation where you feel like you're about to throw up. That's usually the time we hit the bottom. We haven't gotten there quite yet. That could be another 10 to 12% down. You've got to be prepared for that. But yeah, this is the time. You have to look. You know, I'll tell you what I'm doing with my own money, I think is the most important thing. You know, I'm looking at names like Roblox to where I know this is a company that's not giving the market what they want right now. They're investing in the future. But I did the same thing with Amazon 20 years ago, Charles. You have to go in the names understanding you're going to get punished. That's just the way the market's, you know, trading right now.
And Shana, I think that's where the frustration comes in, right? But maybe we could be too pessimistic. The individual investor bullishness right now has plunged below 20%. Now, this is from this morning's AAII survey. And according to Sentiment Trader, it's only happened 31 times in history. 29 of those times the S&P rallied over the next 3 months. You know, is the level of pessimism something of a buy signal for you?
It absolutely is. If you, as you just alluded to, when the bearish signal for the AAII is over 80%, which it is for the first time in 5 years, which is unbelievable because it wasn't this high March 2020, the 12-month average return for the S&P 500 after that is 18%. So yes, again, being contrarian at these times is a good quality, not a bad quality. And as Rob said, I'm looking at names that like NVIDIA, which is a name that it was so expensive. And even though I love the stock, I couldn't touch it. And now, you know, it's down as I look right now, it's down 16% year to date. It's down 7% today, and that's a name I'd be a buyer of.
Yeah, I mean, it's worked to buy that on dips for the last decade, perhaps. I got less than a minute to go, Rob. So just some final thoughts, because we're really melting down here. If Russia does invade, could we actually even see something of an anticlimactic move? It seems unlikely. We're going to get an expert, a guy who was a big part of NATO coming up. That maybe, if it's a quote-unquote minor incursion, that kind of a thing, could this be short-lived?
Yeah, these geopolitical events, I've been doing this for 25 years, Charles, are always the big, going to come and go. Don't base your decision off that. Don't be fooled. The Fed is controlling this market until we can see what they're going to be doing with interest rates, how aggressive they're going to be. This market's going to be in limbo.
All right, Rob, Shana, thank you both very much. That was very informative.